Greetings friends, it's me Women, and this is a video on sacrifice. And I'm finding that my readings of the Vedas and Upanishads and the dialogues of Plato and other texts of world religion has become very helpful to me in understanding Jung and his students, because he uses a lot of Eastern references. And I constantly find myself saying, oh yeah, so this is on sacrifice and the idea of consuming and eating, which is pretty interesting from the psychological point of view. Food becomes, this is from Origins and History of the Consciousness, on page 28 by Eric Newman, who was a student of Jung. And I'm in a quagmire here because I got a lot of these books, and I started reading The Great Mother, and then I thought, well, maybe I should read Jung. And then I thought, well, maybe I should read the Origins and History of Consciousness, because that's kind of like an intro to the book Great Mother. And then I thought, well, in order to learn the terminology, I need to read The Portable Jung by Joseph Campbell, edited by Joseph Campbell. So it's pretty interesting. So I got like books piled all over the place, and we're going through it. And I found that reading the background was very, very helpful. So here it is on page 28 of The Origins and History of Consciousness concerning sacrifice. And I want you all to bear with me and think about this, about consuming and eating, and the planter also being the eater, which is really interesting. Food becomes cosmic content to be seized hold of, and when self finally managed to seize it, the digestive breath, it consumed it. In another passage, hunger is symbolized as death. He is the eater and devourer, as we know from deadly and devouring aspect of the Ouroboros. So even in Canaanite mythology, Baal is consumed by death, Maut. His mouth stretches from the earth to the sky. It's a beautiful passage, and it totally underscores what I just read, where Baal feels fear. One of the few times that Baal feels the emotion of fear. It's pretty interesting. Even today, language cannot get away from these elementary images. Eating, devouring, hunger, death, and Maut go together, and we still speak, just like primitive, of death's maw, a devouring war, a consuming disease. Being swallowed and eaten is an archetype that occurs only in all the medieval paintings of hell and the devil. We ourselves express the swallowing of something small by something big in the same imagery when we say that a man is consumed by his work, by a movement or an idea, or eaten up with jealousy. On this level, where the Ouroboros is coordinated with cosmology, the world or cosmic content to be assimilated is food. Food is a phrase of Brahma. And they go on and list the text here. From food all creatures are produced. All creatures that dwell on earth, by food they live, and into food they finally pass. Food is the chief among beings. Therefore they call it the Panacea. Verily he obtains all food, who worships Brahma as food. For food is the chief among beings. Therefore they call it Panacea. All creatures are born of food. By food they continue to grow. Creatures feed on it. It upon creatures. Therefore it is called food. Brahma arises through the tapas. From Brahma comes food. From food, breath, spirit, truth, worlds, and in works, immortality. The same symbolism is used in the Mitrayana Upanishad, where the relation between the world and God is equivalent to that between food and the eater of food. God, once glorified as the world nourisher, is now seen as the world devourer. For the world is God's sacrificial food. Just as in primitive psychology and mythology, The elementary Ouroboros is a cosmic quantity, so its symbolism also appears in relatively late philosophical speculations of India for the purpose of clarifying the relations between God as subject and world as object, and vice versa. In this connection, we must mention the sacrifice that is offered to the god in the form of food and eaten by him. It is at once an act of incorporation or inward digestion, of seizure for increase of power. So the world in India is the food of the gods. As Dacian has explained, the world, according to an early Vedic idea, was created by Prajapati, who is at once life and death, or hunger. It was created in order to be eaten as sacrifice, which he himself offers to himself. This is how the horse sacrifice is interpreted. The horse standing for the universe, like the bull in other cultures. From this, it is clear that the later age, correctly interpreting the old symbolism, has spiritualized it, or inwardly digested it. For the act of eating, digesting, assimilating the world now appears as a means to possess and obtain power over it. To know the essence of aditi, A-D-I-T-I, is to experience the infinite being of the Creator who eats the world he has created. Thus, on the primitive level, conscious realization is called eating. When we talk of conscious mind assimilating or unconscious content, we are not saying much more than is implied in the symbol of eating and digesting. The examples from Indian and Egyptian mythology could be multiplied at will, for this sort of elementary food symbolism is archetypal. Whenever liquor, fruit, herbs appear as vehicles of life or immortality, including the water and bread of life, the sacrament of the host, and every form of food cult down to the present day, we have this ancient mode of human expression before us, the materialization of psychic contents, by which contents that we would call psychic, like life, immortality, and death, take on material form in myth and ritual and appear as water, bread, fruit, is a characteristic of the primitive mind. Inside is projected outside, as we say. In reality, there is a psychization of the object. Everything outside us is experienced symbolically, as though saturated with a content that we coordinate with the psyche as something psychic or spiritual. The material object outside is then assimilated, i.e. eaten. Conscious realization is acted out in the elementary scheme of nutritive assimilation, and the ritual act of concrete eating is the first form of assimilation known to man. Over this whole sphere of symbolism looms the maternal Ouroboros in its mother-child aspect, where need is hunger and satisfaction is satiety, S-A-T-I-E-T-Y. The body, in its autoerotic, narcissistic sense of itself, we shall be reviewing this idea later on, is an Ouroboros closed circuit. The pregenital stage, self-gratification, is not masturbation, but satisfaction of being nourished, and the infant's finger-sucking as a substitute. To obtain is to eat. It does not mean to be fertilized, to produce, to express. Means to excrete, spit, urinate, later to speak, but not to give birth or to beget. The masturbatory stage of Ouroboros creation is, on the other hand, genital in character. It precedes the sexual stage of the world parents, which is the stage of propagation in duality, and both are preceded by the stage of elementary, alimentary, Ouroboros. Above all, bodily functions symbolize something that is at the same time a psychic process. The rites of cannibalism and the funeral feast, the eating of gods in the pyramid text, and the communion mysteries represent a spiritual act. The assimilation and ingestion of the content, the eaten food produces an interchange. Transformation of the body cells through food intake is the most elementary of animal changes experienced by man. How a weary, enfeebled, and famished man can turn into an alert, strong, satisfied being, or a man perishing of thirst can be refreshed or even transformed by an intoxicating drink. This is and must remain a fundamental experience so long as man shall exist. Kind of long, sorry for rambling on, but I found that really interesting. So there we see the representation of say, the horse as the universe to the bull. And Hebrews used bulls in the culture. Canaanites did. And I believe even the Greeks did. And it's pretty interesting. It's even humorous that sometimes nations or cities would place restrictions on how much of a sacrifice one could donate to the deities, because at times it became extremely excessive. And it was pretty amazing. So maybe that'll give you some insight into how that applies to the psychology of it, and better understand the motives of the deities, which reside not on the outside, but rather on the inside and with us, which is pretty interesting. So take care, friends. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Be well. And remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.